Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Conquer the Clutter podcast for June the 26th. Wow, summer is upon us. Well, summer in the heat of who knows where that came from, is upon us. We're going to continue probably for the next few weeks delving into this marvelous little book. All right. And in fact, I'm so impressed with it that I think that I'm not unfamiliar with the concepts to begin with, but she puts it together and draws conclusions that are a wonderful path to what many people are working very hard and want desperately to achieve. And that is an understanding of what's holding them back. All right, in the goals and the dreams and the desires that they have for the life they want. So I again want to give full credit to Brianna Weist, all right, and this fabulous little book titled The Mountain Is You. And I want to begin by repeating a particularly important concept that we outlined last week. That is and will be our goal, all right, for the next quite a few podcasts as we work together. All right. And to remind you that I'm standing behind this little book, not that Brianna needs me to, but I'm standing behind the content in this little book that I'm actually suggesting that you take it out of the library. Or if you can't, it's not in the library, somebody's shaking their head. Well, it will be very soon. It's going to be a basic. It's excellent. All right. The only other book I felt that strongly about was my own, of course. And also Procrastination by Jane Burkett and Lenora Ewan. So I'm 100% behind the material in this. And we're going to work our way through it concept by concept as it relates, because she lays out the platform of material in concepts, things that she invites you to consider. And they're reasonable things, they're sound things, they are doable things. All right. And I'm going to put a twist on it by expanding what you can apply those concepts to, and that will involve clutter, chronic disorganization, often resulting in hoarding. But basically, these concepts apply to our life. All right. When we choose to no longer repeat this one to yourself many times, particularly when you're discouraged, when we choose to no longer rely on the coping mechanisms that we've used to help distract us from the problems in our lives, all right, it can feel very uncertain, and it can feel when we don't have a firm grasp on them, all right, as though we've hit rock bottom. And we can get discouraged. We can get overwhelmed. Hands up, anybody here who in your whole life has never felt discouraged and overwhelmed and not sure of where the next path was or what you should do next, all right? Where it was safe to put your foot the next step. The reality is, and I've gone back, I've reflected on my life, and I ask you to do the same in yours, because everybody here has had more than enough experience in life to validate this as true, right? And that is, the reality is that this sort of waking ourselves up to the unhealthy things we're using to handle the stress, the coping mechanisms, the reality is that what happens when we finally come to terms, when we finally face the terms that with the problems that have existed, have repeated themselves for a long time, that feeling of loss, that feeling of uncertainty, the fear sometimes it's fear. It's always uncertainty, all right? The breakdown is often, and it's true, just the tipping point to the path and the breakthrough that we're looking for the path that is sounder, uncertain. All right. We're cautious about it. We're not sure sometimes. We sometimes don't know what the next step is. But if you just keep moving forward on that, being honest with yourself, it is the rainbow at the end of the storm. All right. So we're going to continue. We did 4 concepts last time. We're going to continue with concept number 5, and that is we're going to refer to the struggle, just so that I don't have to repeat a phrase 1,600 times in this podcast. All right. Whatever the struggle is, whatever that barrier is, we're going to call that the mountain. All right. In Brianna's honor. The mountain is often less a challenge in front of us as it is a problem within us. So the problem, that challenge, isn't about an external. All right. It's about us, something that is happening or not happening within us. And usually it has something to do with an unstable, not to say anybody's mentally ill, all right? It's not that kind of unstable. It's not that feeling of security, of certainty that gives us pause, all right? Gives us fear sometimes. An unstable foundation that might not seem evident. It's not clear to us, okay, on the surface. But that uncertainty is shifting almost every part of our lives, because that thing it touches, that part of us, that fear, uncertainty, whatever, that is a theme that runs through many parts of our lives. And usually when we have a problem, remember this, all right? When we have a problem that is circumstantial, it's about the context of trying to do something, all right? What we're actually facing is the reality of life. That's life. Circumstances do influence our ability to make change at that time. However, when the problem is chronic, whatever it is we're facing is chronic, we usually are facing a reality about ourselves. All right? So when it's chronic, when it's not just once in a while or it only happens in a particular context, that's life. When it happens across many themes in our life, that's something that is about the reality of ourself, facing something that we need to face that is true for us. And we often think that to face that mountain, all right, it means to face life's hardships, things that have proven difficult in the past. But the truth is that is not necessarily so. It's rarely so, actually. It's almost always because of the years that we have spent accumulating tiny hurts, pain, trauma, the adaptations, accumulating ways of handling things without actually handling things. We adapt, but we don't necessarily adapt in a healthy, productive way. All right. And we develop something called coping mechanisms, right? Things we use to manage the event that is distressing to us, coping mechanisms. All of those, if we weren't on track to begin with, and we were kind of hiding in the wings, hiding in the bushes, all right, and just kind of making it go away, all right, all of those traumas And it doesn't have to be life changing, just the little disappointments that keep happening, all right, can be enough repeatedly. The adaptations we make to it, the coping mechanisms we settle for, that we carry with us moving forward that didn't work well enough in the beginning, but we just keep using them because they're all we know. All right. They're not all we know. They're all we have developed so far. And then we put the blinders on. All right. All of those things at a certain point continue to pile in on each other. And then we have the mountain. All right. That's the mountain. The mountain is not insurmountable. The mountain can almost always be deconstructed, removing one stone at a time. As we're able, as we deal with the fear, we deal with the uncertainty, whatever it is that's making us nervous to move forward and do what we need to do. Take a risk. Okay, concept number 6. I love this one. Our mountain, write this one down, all right? Get the book, but in the meantime, write this one down, all right? Our mountain is the block between us and the life we want to live. Whatever it is we're not facing, whatever it is we're using not adequate coping mechanisms, all right, whatever that is, that's pieces, that's stones and boulders in the mountain that block us between the life we want to live. All right. Now, facing it is also, and know this, there's no way around the mountain, people. All right. You got to climb the mountain, or you've got to lower the mountain so that you can manage it. Facing it is also the only path to the freedom and becoming our true selves that we're seeking. When we bump our heads on this repeatedly, what we're really trying to do, remember I said many times, our mind, our heart, our soul, our energy, our life force energy is always trying to tell us the truth, deal with the truth, deal with the thing that needs, or the little things in your day that need dealing with so that they can't come back to bite you. All right. Or distract you, or make you afraid, or make you tired, or make you overwhelmed. All right. Facing it is also the only path to our freedom and becoming our true selves. Is there anybody here who isn't looking for truth, an answer, something about themselves that they believe is there? You're actually looking for a shortcut around the mountain? Anybody? Is there anybody here who comes here every week because you really want to dodge the mountain? Okay, I don't think so. All right. And so facing it is also, just facing it is also the path to the freedom of becoming our true selves. And in being ourselves, increasingly more truthful about who we are and what we want, we can then start to be more truthful with ourselves about what our needs actually are. And deconstructing that mountain, what feels like a mountain, all right, that's the way through. When we are truly meeting our needs, our real needs. All right. And that uncertain period, as we move forward, as we take some chances, we take a risk. All right. We pay a price sometimes. We're at this midpoint because a trigger, all right, has showed us where we'll call it a wound. Okay, it could be a scrape. It doesn't have to be, all right, a terribly dramatic thing. But When we're at that stress point, all right, that midway point, it's uncomfortable because a trigger shows us where our wounds are. And when we look at those wounds, whether they're traumas, disappointments, illness, something, all right, that wound, when we look at it honestly, will show us our path. Right? Because there is a path that each of us would be better to take than dodging the mountain and living with coping mechanisms. And our path, and we don't have to walk that path at great speed, people. We can walk it at our pace. We can stop and take a rest. We can stop and try little experiments to see if we feel safe enough to take 3 steps forward and step a half a step forward. We move down that path at our pace. But that path is the path that we need uniquely, and each of us has a different one. They'll show us our true potential, because when we start to move down that path, the clouds, it's too dramatic, the fog, the uncertainty starts to clear, and we start to little bite by bite by bite experience our own potential and the opportunities that we were looking for. Are the truth is, Brianna uses the word destiny. I just use the truth about what we seek, the end goal of what we seek, right? Now, my observation is, how long do you want to stay dodging the mountain? How long do you want to stay wounded, re-wounding yourself, all right, on a path that you're not consciously looking for? Okay, that's not the path. That's the path to the coping mechanism. That is not the path that you need. And you know when you need it? She's told you. Because when you repeatedly experience the same or similar outcomes, what do you think the answer is? You're on the wrong path. Okay? You're on the wrong path. Don't go any further down that path. Don't invest in it. Back up a little. Take time to do something we're going to talk about a little further on in this podcast. All right? And every single one of us, you, every one of you, me, anybody that I've given that book to, anybody that I've recommended that book to says the same thing. This is a book that helps you find the answers at your own pace that you're looking for. All right? So, when you stop following the path that is just about coping mechanisms, all right, and you're not consciously looking for what that path will show you, stop and try something new. And this is what I would suggest you try. This is concept 7. When we arrive at that, and it can be very confusing, it can be very frustrating, very stressful, very not self-affirming for sure. It's not filling the cup, it's emptying the cup to be at that point. It feels that way, okay? When we arrive at this breaking point, here's the biggie. Write this one down for sure. Write this one down in capital letters. When we arrive at that breaking point, that stress point, that uncertain point, that isn't there something easier that I could do, or isn't I don't want to do this. I don't even want to try this. Okay. If we're willing to do the work, this is not a magical thing where we go to sleep and we wake up enlightened in the morning. No. We have to do the work. We have to be willing at the pace that we set. That is our personal pace. We have to be willing to do the work. All right. We will find that there is an entryway to breaking through, but it's through the work that basically clears the clutter. Isn't that an odd analogy? All right. When we do the work that is basically clearing the clutter, we'll find that there is an entryway to the breakthrough. And that will have a lot of other positive aspects to it that will affect our entire life moving forward. The one we want, the one we've been looking for. Okay? The life that you're trying to lead, the life that you know is possible. You just don't know how to get there. All right? That's what brings you here every week. The life we're trying to lead. All right? Now, according to Brianna West, it's time for that crisis point, and crisis doesn't have to be overwhelming. It's uncomfortable, all right, for sure. It's a little disorienting and frustrating, but that's the point at which it's time for gotta reinvent ourselves a little bit in certain ways. And the change you want will start to happen. And you'll know it by just that solid feeling. Even though you feel uncertain, you know it's the right thing. You don't know how you know, but you know. And I'll give you an example. When I left Ottawa Public Health, I was offered another job, and I was starting down a path, and I was driving home, and of course the position with Ottawa Public Health was as a subject area expert for hoarding for the city of Ottawa and for public health and municipal government. Okay. I was driving home, and I was really liked who my new boss was going to be. I'd always wanted to work with him. Um, the application of my skills was going to be very different. And I wasn't afraid of it, but you know what? I started to cry on my drive home, and I thought to myself, what are you doing? Of course, take the safe way. Of course, take the safe way. All right. And I thought, what are you doing? And then I thought, no, I call them frick and frack. Okay. The little guys who sit on my shoulder, they argue all the time. They're very annoying. And Frick was saying to Frack, be quiet and listen to her. And Frack was saying, are you out of your ever-loving mind? You were raised to do things a certain way. You know that's the way to do them. And Frick was saying, don't listen to him. Don't listen to him. And I got home and I thought, I have no idea, but I know it's the right thing. But if it was the right thing, why doesn't it feel better? Why don't I feel more certain? And I called the boss and I said, thank you for the offer. It's given me a lot of confidence, and it's just not work that I think I'm meant to do. And then I sat down and I thought, okay, well, what else will we do then? And I was offered another position. It's at a competition, and not for the city. It was a big job. And I thought, this is perfect. I love a job I can throw myself into 365 days a year, 100%. That's me. Okay. Show me where we start. And I had a sudden come to truth moment. I wasn't looking for this, but I had a sudden voice in me say, who's going to do the training and the hoarding work? And I just worked 5 or 6 years with a great group of people to get national national attention, a federal funding, and all the other partners were going, "What? Where's she going? What did we do this work for?" And I thought, Elaine, you don't even know if that'll be a full-time job. And I thought, I don't know, but that's what I need to do. That sounds very noble. It was as scary as bejeebers. Okay. Like I was in a sweat, but I thought, you know what? And I called and I withdrew my acceptance. Well, actually, what I'd done is told them, because I thought, what do you do? Frickin' frack, we're arguing again. And I said, well, can you give me 48 hours and I'll give you my final acceptance or answer. And Frack is saying, see, Frack is saying, listen, get off her back. All right. And I didn't know what I was doing, asking him to wait 48 hours to accept this great job. And then I called a leading researcher internationally who I'd been working with, who I'd helped out on a few occasions, and in my previous role. And he said, "What do you think? That's going to be a full-time job?" And I don't know where this came from. I really don't know where this came from. I said, "It'll be what it'll be, but that's what I'm going to do." Was I confident? No, I was not. No, I mean, I was sweating pigs here. It was like, what? Who is working my mouth? Um, and 6 months later, I called him back and said, there aren't enough hours in the day. There aren't enough days in the week. Okay. So when you get, be, be careful. You've got to, you've got a life to manage, but trust yourself. Do the work and take a risk, baby step by baby step. All right. And that inner truth that you have about something you're seeking, listen to it. Don't listen to the fear. Don't listen to the fear, because it's time for reinvention and the change you want, because that change you want is what you've been seeking. Actually, because of the work you've done, the change that will happen is one doesn't happen magically. You've earned it. All right. Some might say you deserve it because of the work you've done, the cautious risk you take. Find your balance, find your pace. Okay. Now we're going to talk about concept 8. In that process, though, all right, you can't carry the whole baggage with you. Something's got to go. If you're going to walk down a path that is unfamiliar, it's going to take more energy to orient yourself. You're going to have to, it's not a path you can go through with your eyes closed. All right. You have to release parts of your old self. And you know what? The parts of your old self that you have to release are the ones that have given you false security. All right. You have to be willing to think in a way that you have never even tried before. In my whole life, I never thought I'd be opening my own business halfway through my life, because I was moving towards something that felt like home. All right. I have no idea why, when I heard about hoarding the first time, I didn't know what hoarding was. But when I heard about it, I could understand the mind of somebody who was stuck in that position. I didn't think I knew anyone who hoarded. It certainly, now I discovered much later, and it's not because I interfaced with this person. They may have been family, but you know what? They were such distant family that who knew? All right. But that's not what generated it. It was, I get that. I do get that. I can see a mind working that way, thinking that it's actually being positive and cautious and whatever. All right. You have to release parts of your old self. You can't carry the entirety of the old you with you as you walk this path moving forward. You can't. And you have to be willing to challenge your thoughts, to think in a new way, quite often in a way you've never even tried before. And if you find you are like me and you blurt something out and you go, where did that come from? And then you go, you know what though? That that feels solid. I have no idea where it came from. It's that part of you inside that's a little frickin' frack. It's your own version of frickin' frack, all right? No, listen to this. It's you trying to be truthful to yourself. And sometimes, well, quite often, it's scary. Certainty is far better. Hiding your head in the clouds and pretending that, this is like cotton candy. Yeah, that is so much more comfortable. All right. But it isn't cotton candy you're looking for. It's actually fog you're in. You have to mourn the loss of the parts of your previous self that you counted on. And I said goodbye to them one by one as they reared their ugly head, and thanked them treated them like an entity, thanked them, and said, I know you did your best to keep me safe and keep me on track and help me and support me and sustain me. I know you did, but right now I need to do something else. So I won't be calling on you. So we'll say goodbye. And if you come to mind as an option, know that I won't be calling you. I'm going to do my best not to call on you. All right. You have to mourn the loss of the parts of yourself that represent your previous self. The person who has gotten you this far, when you get to this decision making kind of, and it can happen in little bits every day. It doesn't have to be this big, profound moment. It can happen in little chunks every day you make a decision. The person who's gotten you this far to carry you forward and onward, that's the person you have to see yourself being and becoming. All right. And you can't imagine something that you're not capable of. That's just not the way, unless you are cognitively completely disconnected, and nobody here is. If you can imagine it, if you can conceive of it, you can do it. It takes work, it takes courage, and it takes perseverance. But you have to see and become that, adding those pieces to who you are to make yourself sufficiently comfortable that this is the person. When I said goodbye to habits, when I said goodbye to grievances, when I said goodbye to the things I didn't want to carry in my backpack anymore, they belong to the past. All right. I had to say goodbye to them and make myself sufficiently comfortable and available and capable that this person who half emptied the backpack of garbage and grievance and all kinds of stuff, you're the one that's going to lead you from here over the mountain, over the barrier. All right. The one that feels like it's standing in front of you, all right, that mountain that feels like it's standing in front of it. Each of us, and I firmly, firmly believe this. I think I believe that, maybe I was taught it, I don't know, but I believe this from as far back as I can remember. Each of us, every single one of us, to make this world whole, this existence on this earth whole, each of us has a calling in life. All right. So clear away any distractions that prevent you from deciding what the calling of your life is, and then own that calling. What were you put on this earth to do? It is usually based on your skills and your strengths. And your strengths don't have to be something that they would write a Hollywood movie around. All right. Your strength can be just perseverance, just never giving up, and being willing to take a baby step forward in the direction that feels right. All right. Everyone, your purpose for being here and your path will finally start to become clearer, but you need to give it some deliberate thought. What ways, if you're still, take a mirror, do the sniff test on it, all right? If there's fog, you're alive. If you're alive, you have a calling and a purpose, all right? So there's no saying, oh, no, not me. Take this test, okay? If you take up space on this earth, you have a reason to be here. Don't be sitting there saying you don't. You do. All right, what is it? And you don't have to be anything that they'd write a book about. All right, you just have to be who you are, using the strengths and the skills that you have. That's all you need. Okay? If you're on the wrong path, by the way, and you stay on that path because it feels safer, more comfortable, less confusing, and you're not feeling really good about yourself, could that be because the path you're deciding on here doesn't require your skills or your abilities or the lessons you've learned in life already? So how does that false path, that kind of trying to deke around the mountain, how does that validate what you actually do have you lost track of what you have to offer? Well, it's time to find it. All right. Because you'll know what you're good at. You'll feel it. It's not going to feel like lightning or anything. It's just going to feel like a solid, like, yeah, 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 yep, yep. That's what it's going to feel like. So don't wait for fireworks. There are no fireworks. All right. And sometimes you just blurt something out in your own mind. You blurt out a truth. Listen to it. And you know how you know it? Because you go, what? Huh? Listen to it. Your path. When you do that, when you don't settle for the safety zone, is finally becoming clearer. And as hard as it may be right now to believe, all right, you, all right, become, in that process of getting over the mountain, that person that you will become. And it's not, nobody, you're not going to look any different. You're not going to sound any different. You're not going to know any different people, probably. But that internal shift in you, the beauty of that is there is no backing up from it. All right? There's no backing up from it. It'll stay with you forever. It will always be a resource you have if you face the fear or the insecurity or the lack of confidence or the voices on that tape in our head that when we try to do something, we go and hide in the corners. That person you will become, that change, that shift of getting over the mountain in baby steps, that'll stay with you forever. And in the end, know this, it's not the mountain that you have to master. That's not the block. It's you have to master. You just have to master yourself. Get started today. If you pass that fog test on the mirror and you're not sure what your purpose is in life, and most of us only have I think anyway, very few of us have a purpose that affects the whole world in one shot. We may just affect bettering our world in some little way we contribute our strengths. All right? So nobody's going to get the Governor General's medal here, maybe. Okay, for the changes that they've made in people's lives. Okay, but that's okay. That's okay. All right. And the shift in you stays with you. There's no denying it once you've experienced it. All right. So we're going to finish with concept 9. Truth. There is nothing holding us back more than ourselves. If there is an ongoing gap between where we are and where we want and believe we need to be, and our efforts to close that gap are consistently met with our own resistance, our own pain, our own discomfort, know that something called self-sabotage is almost always at work. Okay? And self-sabotage is self-harming. It appears, self-sabotage, self-harming appears to be a product of the lack of self-confidence. Then just shorten your step. Take a smaller step forward and get your balance. Reorient yourself to what is different, what is new. What do you have to adapt to? All right. Sometimes it appears to be a lack of willpower. In reality, self-sabotage is simply the presence of an unwrite this down. Self-sabotage is simply the presence, the existence of an unconscious need that is being filled by the self-sabotaging behavior. There is an unconscious need. Unconscious doesn't mean it's deep and profound. It just means you're not fully aware of the need. And you are taking a maladaptive adaptation as a substitute for filling that need. To overcome this, we have to go through a process of honest, usually psychological exploration. We have to be willing, when the light bulb goes on, as we're exploring these things, thinking about these things, going back and doing maybe a timeline of that stands out, but what was the precursor to that? What before that and before that and before that? You know what? You can discover some pretty interesting things. I know I did. I thought I had it it all covered. I answered a few questions for myself. And you know what? In subtle ways that no one will ever see, I feel like I am a slightly different person, and I now have a few more light bulbs on. I invite you to consider doing the same thing. We have to go through, and all I did wasn't a big profound thing. I didn't hire a therapist. I sat down and I went through the book and I asked myself the questions, one question at a time. And then I dove like I was diving in at the deep end. All right. I dove into the question. I dove into what came into my mind. I followed the track of it. And you know what? There were some very interesting, enlightening moments there. We have to go through the process of honest psychological exploration. We have to pinpoint the traumatic event or events and not dwell on them. We're peeling the lid. We're not jumping in the can with the trauma. We're not re-triggering ourselves. Okay? We have to pinpoint the traumatic event. We have to release what Brianna describes as unprocessed emotions. I call it emotional baggage. Now, unprocessed emotions can sound scary, like you're going to discover something that's no. You pretty much know there's a fog or an owie or there's a something there. All right. And the baggage, you just unpack the baggage. One little question at a time. And it's nothing to be afraid of. All right. And the reason we do that is that's the way we get to understand what the true need is. All right. And then, only then, can we find healthier ways to meet that need, those needs. And when we can do that, all of the labels, all of the questions, all of the confusion, all of the fog around those situations start to get blown away. You can see through it. You can make the connections. Gee, wow. Yeah, it wasn't that. It was actually that. If she calls it reinventing our self-image, that sounds very grand. You know what I call it? I call it turning the lights on. And I'm sure I don't look a lot different, but in very important ways to me, I'm thinking a little differently. And I'm making connections. And I'm forgiving people who I think failed me, frankly. All right? Because now I can see something I couldn't see before. And so I am reinvent my own self-image, sounds very grand. I am a slightly different person and I feel better. I feel safer. I feel truer. All right. And that helps develop principles because now I can make connections in my mind that I can apply to real situations in the past. And I can now make quite different choices because I don't have that need anymore. A lack of understanding about things that are key for us, and they could be little things, all right, allows us to forgive. We don't have to carry that anymore. We say we do, but you know what? It allows us to let go of resentments, which hold us back and weigh us down. It allows us to accept that, yes, okay, yes, that did happen. Those things did happen. But you know what? Elaine, you're still standing. So is it time to pack it away? And even if it was true, even if you shone the light on something and it became truer and truer and truer, what does that change now, and how long do you want to carry it is a question to ask yourself. How long do you want to carry that? Even if it is true. What is it going to change to put it down and not carry it anymore? On a path that you now can see clearer and develop principles like emotional intelligence, not letting your emotions and the side effects on you as whatever stage in life these things happen. All right. Don't get cut off at that point. Emotional intelligence and resilience. When you put it down, but you put it down consciously. You don't make some, I'm going to forgive, okay? Because forgiveness is, is for you. And no, you read that in a book. It was an interesting concept. You don't really have a grasp on it. But when you do this kind of answer these questions honestly for yourself, you'll own it. It won't be a principle to live by. It'll be, I get it. I get it now. I get it. It's the difference, when you're having, what would a really good thing be? Okay, we were talking about ice cream last week. So you go, it's the difference between seeing an ice cream cone and going, yeah, I see it, I get it, and tasting your favorite flavor of whatever it is. And if food isn't your thing, turn it into something that's legal. All right? You're more you. And when you are more you are more resilient. You are subtly just that much stronger. Okay? And it's true. It is not a small task. But it is the work that all of us have to do at one point or another. The question is, are you ready? Are you ready for the next baby step? And if a baby step is all you have in you right now, for whatever good reasons, take the baby step and don't judge it as inadequate. Because isn't the question really, how long do you want to stay where you are? Because that's the alternative. And even if you're kind of happy with where you are, doesn't the fact that you're a little happy with where you are mean that you could actually move forward and be even happier? Even more of something? I think so. So I'm going to invite you this week to think about those concepts. And I know that I think Braden has actually moved the mountain. And I'm pretty sure, Shalom told me, we were caught up. I think so. So he'll be getting these things on much faster, which means that if you want to re-listen, you can re-listen. All right? You can re-listen and let it soak in. Okay, but when it soaks in, pick up the cloth and wash your face with it. Don't let what you've learned evaporate by the pressures of tomorrow. Wash the dirt off. Get it gone. Because we all carry dirt. Okay? I'll see you next week for Concept 10 moving forward. Take care, everybody.